Welcome to Drop the Mic, broadcasting from The Lounge, also known as the Cigar Affair in downtown Maumee, Ohio. I'm Mike, your host. Thanks for joining us for insightful conversations about business, technology, leadership, and entrepreneurship. Alongside my co-hosts Brendan and Zach, together we'll dive into the latest trends, share valuable insights, and interview inspiring guests. Now, get ready for Drop the Mic. Welcome to Drop the Mic. I'm your host, Mike. We're here in the lounge in Maumee, Ohio. I got Brendan on the board today. How you doing, Brendan?
Doing good, Mike. What you got up for us today?
Okay, today we've got Erin Zylka joining us. She's the owner of Kona Financial.
Okay.
She's a CFP, and we're gonna talk to her today. And one of the things that really caught my attention with Erin, besides the fact that I know Erin and have known Erin for years, is that Erin actually she had a job working for a company. She took the leap. We're going to talk about the process of taking the leap and starting her own thing, right? And we know, we talk a lot here, Brendan, about like entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurial spirit. Erin was really kind of apprehensive. She didn't necessarily go into it lightly, and I really loved her process that she went through to start her own business. And honestly, she's killing it out there. So I not only wanted to bring her on so we can hear her story, we can talk about her process and making the leap, but just get to know her a little bit and introduce everybody to her.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to listening to Erin's story. I know with myself, I have an entrepreneurial mindset, and I love to hear other people's journeys and adventures there and learn the do's and don'ts of business. So
and again, you know me, I like to focus on like the realness of it, right? The authenticity. Everybody thinks that starting your own business, it's going to be easy. I'm going to make all this money. I'm going to be able to take all the time off in the world that I want to. Well, then they find out when they do it, it's not necessarily the case, right? The struggle is real, right?
We don't see the blood, sweat, and tears. We only see the glitz, glamour, and Gucci.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce Erin Zylka. Erin, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me here today. Excited to be here. After all the compliments, Mike, can we just drop the mic on that there?
Yeah. Okay.
Appreciate it.
It's been a great show.
Yep.
You can get a hold of Erin in the bio. No, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about Kona Financial, and then we'll get into like the start of that. But give us a little bit of background on yourself and your company.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out, was officially registered. It'll be 14 years ago this May. Licensed in financial services. Started out really more on the insurance side of things, on the broker-dealer side of the investment advisory world, and really kind of got started with, the old-fashioned learning how to do sales and cold calling and,
What made you want to go into financial planning? Was this intentional, or is this just something that you kind of fell into?
No, that's a good question. It was not intentional. My undergrad degree was actually in biology and chemistry, and I learned pretty quickly that I didn't necessarily want to go to med school. I didn't want to teach biology in high school, and wasn't quite sure where to go from there. So when I graduated with my 4-year degree, my bachelor's, I panicked a little bit and thought, I don't want to leave school because it's the only thing I know. It's where I'm comfortable. So I decided to stick around a little bit longer and got my master's with a focus in finance. And when I graduated with my MBA in 2008, everybody was on a hiring freeze. We were going through a recession and nobody wanted to bring in anybody that they had to pay a salary to. So I wound up interviewing as many places as I could. The only offers I really got were unpaid internships, and I had bills to pay, as many people do. So couldn't quite go that route. And a family friend of ours actually introduced me to financial advising. He ran his own firm, had a practice of his own, said, it's going to be 100% commission based, but I'm happy to teach you the ropes and bring you in. I think you'd be great at it. It's a lot more about people skills than anything else. And I think, at the end of the day, we're all in sales in some fashion. So learning the widget of the day is, I think, something that we all have the opportunity to do. So it wasn't anything that I really had any experience with, but I was willing to give it a shot.
Let's stay on this for a second, Erin, because actually, I think that might be the first time I've heard you actually say this. But this is so relatable today, right? I mean, all these kids, you think you've got to have it figured out when you're in college. They put all this stress on themselves because they're kind of forced to go to college to begin with, quite honestly. Our government-run school systems and everything, they push you to sign up and what college are you going to attend, and if you don't get a degree, you're going to waste your life, and all these kids put this stress on themselves, and at the end of the day, there's a lot of people I know that aren't doing anything close to what they went to school for.
Yeah, that is so true. I feel like that's one of the things that I try to impress upon younger generations and younger kids now when I have a chance to mentor anybody or have that conversation. Yeah. We expect these young kids to, fresh out of high school, get into college, select a major. We think they should know what they want to do with the rest of their lives, and they still have so much learning to do, and there's so much growing and so much to experience. It's hard.
They have so much time.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
They have their whole lives ahead of them, but yet the kind of pressure to figure it out quick. Right?
I never thought I would be doing what I'm doing today. I tell a lot of people I think I tripped and fell into this, and I got lucky with it.
And speaking from experience, I mean, I personally took 6 years to get through undergrad. And that was because I fell victim to that situation, right? I was didn't know what I really wanted to do. Wanted to do engineering. Really didn't have the grades for engineering, so then I dabbled a little bit into business, got into that a little bit, and then really 2-3 years went by, and I really took many classes that I really didn't even like. And it took a long time for me to really get into the nitty-gritty of what I really liked learning about.
And now you're a salesman.
And sales guy.
And Erin has realized she's a salesman too.
We all are. Everybody's in sales.
Moral of the story is just be a
Right.
sales guy.
Yep.
Or woman.
Okay, so you work for a year. How many years did you work, for somebody else in, the financial planning world?
Well, I worked for a few different firms, but I've worked for other firms, worked officially for an employer for 10 years.
Okay.
It was all said and done before I went out on my own.
And out
A
of
little
those,
over 10 years.
out of those firms, I know there's a big firm here in Toledo. I think it's a national company that just comes to a lot of the UT job fairs. And it's one of those organizations that, they push out, say you need to get 50 to 60 family friends, and I want you to hound these people until they sign up, and they start from ground zero. And start selling health and life insurance to them, and then move up to financial planning. Is that where you started, or did you dabble right into financial planning? Or
Sadly, that is where I started. It's really tough early on, and it's a little different. The industry today is different than what it was when I started years ago. It was before everybody had cell phones and nobody had a landline. We could still catch people by surprise when we called them around the dinner hour. Can't do that quite as often now. But yeah, it was very much, you get licensed in insurance, learn about life insurance, annuities, anything that can generate a commission kind of quickly. But you want to make sure that even then when you're giving advice, it's in somebody's best interest. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you kind of build up and learn a bit more about the investment world. And there are different licenses and certifications that you have to get before you can really give advice or sell a product. But early on, it was much more the product sales kind of world. And then I learned, after a couple of years selling products, I really wanted to be more in the education and advising side of things. I was interested in investments. I was interested in learning more about a well-rounded financial planning process that included insurance, but also incorporated investments and estate planning and tax strategies. So, as we do with anything, I think when you start out in something, just such a small portion of what you eventually evolve to really gather in terms of information. And so it's a process of building confidence and building your own education so you feel comfortable enough that the advice you're giving really is appropriate for the people that you're meeting with and speaking with. Because, at the end of the day, it's a lot of responsibility. And I felt every bit of that responsibility when I would sit down and have conversations with people for the first time, thinking, who am I to give advice? I don't have probably half the experience that someone on the other side of the table has in terms of buying a home and raising a family and going through those steps in a career to build something and then wanting to know how to protect it and protect your family and plan for a long-term financial future. So, a lot of it is experience from the educations or, building up the education, but then also having the experience, the worldly experience within a career and a family and all of that.
So 10 years you worked for somebody else and you had to go through all these pains and be kind of an insurance pusher and all, and then kind of work your way up. And then you got your CFP,
yes.
which was a big step. I remember you going through that. It was, quite an experience for you.
It was pretty intimidating. Yes. Yes, it was.
And I don't think people realize, that normal people realize the difference between a non-fiduciary and a fiduciary, right?
That's correct.
They don't understand why they should be working with a CFP instead of just a,
Absolutely.
financial. And we'll get more into that. But
of course.
So you did that for 10 years, and then you decided what?
Well, so I started, as I mentioned, more on the insurance side, leaned more into the investment and wealth management side of things within a couple of years. But I did transition from more of a commission-based type of firm within my first 2 years to a fee-based advisory firm, an independent advisory firm. And I learned a lot at that next firm that I worked with, really more about, as you mentioned, the fiduciary capacity of giving investment advice. A lot of people ask, what is a fiduciary? And everywhere you read, if you're meeting with an advisor, ask if they're a fiduciary. Well, what does that mean? It really just, in the most simple terms, means that not only do I have an ethical responsibility, but also a legal responsibility to make sure that the advice that I am giving anybody that I'm meeting with, anybody that signs on as a client with me, is in their best interest at all times, that I am meeting with them on a regular basis, at least once a year, that I'm continuing to stay informed in what's going on with them in their lives, what changes they're experiencing, and that I'm continuing to make adjustments. It's not just we sit down one time, I make a recommendation for you, and then I don't talk to you for 4 or 5 years. It's really that added level of responsibility.
Relationship building. Right?
Absolutely.
It's a level of relationship and you're not just selling them a product to get a commission so that you can make your BMW payment.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. That doesn't factor into it. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay. So you're working for that. You've gained all these skills, and one day you decided that you wanted to be out on your own, that you had an idea of doing something differently.
Kind of. So, as you mentioned early on, becoming a business owner and starting my own firm was never something that really resonated with me. You kind of spoke to it a little bit earlier. It wasn't a natural transition for me. At the time that I started contemplating it, I was working for a firm. I was driving an hour to and from work every single day, working a lot of hours and working in a lot of different capacities. Oftentimes within a financial advisory firm, the smaller the firm and the fewer employees that work there, the more hats you wear. It's that way in a lot of different companies. Sure. And while I was learning a lot from the back end operation side of the company and learning more how to train and manage new employees, onboarding junior advisors, I had a lot of opportunities to really be exposed to so many aspects of the business ownership side of an advisory firm, from compliance to marketing, the due diligence process when looking to partner with new vendors. But I felt like I was not getting to spend as much face time with my clients as I really wanted to. And that's what I got into this business to do when I decided this is what I wanted to do long term. You mentioned it first. Yeah. It's relationships. It's the people that I get to work with. I feel very blessed to say that I love my clients. I feel very fortunate that I have the relationships with my clients that I do. And I look at every single one of them. I mean, I've been doing this long enough. I have people who have been working with me 10, 12, 14 years, and that means a lot to me. And so I wanted to make sure that I was still giving them enough of my time, paying attention in the way that I knew I should be. And I just kind of felt like I was being pulled away from that, spending more time on the back end side of operating an advisory firm. So COVID hit. Changed a lot of things for a lot of people, myself included. And I realized while I was working from home, while I was still working a lot of hours, I felt like I was actually being able to have more frequent conversations with clients. I mean, there were a lot of questions at that time, of course, a lot going on with the markets, but I was spending more time having conversations with clients. I was working very efficiently because I wasn't in the car so many hours of the day. So I was able to open my laptop, bang out a ton of hours for work, close my laptop, and ask my husband, Garrett, hey, you want to go out for a walk with the dog? You want to go to the park? Is there something we can do to get out? And we were spending more time together. And I felt like having that a bit more of a balance where I could spend time at home with my family doing the things that I enjoyed reinvigorated me when I was back in the working phase of my day. And I was getting more done. I was more excited. I was more motivated. So that was really the first time that I started thinking about what would this look like if I went out on my own?
Yeah.
Do I feel like this is something I could do on my own?
I can remember having a conversation with you about that time, and I can remember you saying, this isn't a business for me. And I'm like, Erin, there's a business here, and the thing is, like, my mindset, right? And I know Brendan's very similar to me in this mindset. I would have already had an LLC started, and, I mean, you already had, you already had the idea, you already had, the financial, I mean, I don't think you knew, but there was enough, there was a mitigated risk there, right? And,
oh, yeah.
And I can remember telling you, what are you doing?
I remember that conversation.
Just do it. We sat on your back deck, and I said, just do it.
Yep.
And it's still, you didn't just do it.
No,
it
still took a little while.
So yeah, starting a business, that entrepreneurial mindset, just, I know it didn't come naturally to you.
And at that time, were you a W-2?
I was.
You were W-2.
Yes, I was a W-2 employee at that time.
Okay. So I know a lot of times in financial advisory, they're 1099, typically, I've heard. So
yep. There are different ways to structure it. Where I was at the time, I was a W-2 employee. So, I think I'm trained in what I do to exercise a lot more caution. I'm very conservative with any amount of risk that I take. And I think most of us, know, the viewers included probably, that there's a lot more protection, even if you're in sales, even if you're going out and, trying to generate revenue. There's a lot more protection when you are the person behind the owner.
Oh, yeah.
You have, a 401k. You've got health insurance benefits.
Right.
There's so many other things that go along with having that protection. And while I was, a W-2 employee, I had a salary, but I still was able to, bring in clients and generate some revenue from the management fee side of things.
You were insulated.
I was insulated.
Yeah,
yes,
you were
I was
insulated.
Protected, and taking on that amount of risk and, having the discussion with you, with my husband, Garrett, and kind of sitting through that, really understanding what that is, taking on that amount of risk. It was terrifying to me at the time, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to make that jump. It's a lot easier to know that you've got that support. You've got a mentor behind you that's really encouraging you.
You have a paycheck coming in next week.
Yes. You can rely on that. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so ultimately, we talked you into it, and Kona Financial
Planning. That is the name of my firm.
came into existence.
Yep. It became a thing.
Right. So first of all, where'd the name come from? I always like to ask that question. Where'd the name come from? And also, tell us just a little bit about like your overall mission statement. What the company does. What is your value statement? What do you do differently than everybody else?
Absolutely. So it's funny you ask about the name. I tell everybody that I think the most difficult part of starting your own company or your own business is trying to figure out what you're going to call it. Because it's going to stick hopefully for a very long time. You want it to be something that is easy to remember, easy to pronounce. People, see it, they like it. It doesn't leave anybody with a bad sense of emotion or anything. You want it to have meaning, but you want it to be simple and easy to bring to the front of mind. So we talked about a lot of things, Garrett and I did, as this process was coming along. And I was just really, really stuck on what I wanted to call the business. And we went away for a weekend. We decided, from the operation side of things, I kind of felt like I knew where I was going and how I was going to structure things. And I said, I feel like I just need to get away, take a breather, and focus on what is important to me, what has meaning in my life, what can I call upon that really is sentimental for me. So we went away to actually a winery where he proposed. So there was a lot of sentimental, sentimentality. Yeah. And we talked through it. It actually, the name Kona comes from where he and I got married in Hawaii. And, we talked about a lot of different locations, a lot of different places we had visited together, and that just stuck. And Hawaii has always had a special place in my heart. I've been fortunate enough to visit there a handful of times, and it's where we ultimately got married. And to me, it kind of always represented that dream event. I remember telling Garrett early on when we were dating, I've always had this vision, this dream that I want to get married in Hawaii. There's this beautiful little chapel that I saw one time at a resort that I had been to, and I thought that would be a beautiful place to get married. And I thought it was just a pipe dream. I never really thought it would happen. And I remember him telling me after he proposed that he knew it was important to me. He knew it was a dream of mine, and he wanted to make it a reality. So when I think about what's important to the people that I'm working with and what they consider a dream or a goal that they want to shoot for, even if they consider it a pipe dream, to me, I want to do whatever I can to help them find that, to reach that goal.
I like that. That's a very well thought out name.
Thank you.
We went through a lot of names, didn't we?
Yep.
We talked about a lot of things.
Yes.
And all of a sudden you like do a search on it and find out it actually means like dancing with the devil or something.
You got to be very careful.
You have to be. You have to be very careful.
Yes.
So it represents like the base of who you are.
Yes.
Right. And what you want to help people.
Absolutely.
With that. Okay. So Erin, tell me. So in your opinion, what is the most important thing when it comes to dealing with your clients? Why are they going to choose to deal with you rather than any other financial advisor, maybe CFP, whatever that's out there? What is your like value that you bring that people, would want to come and work with you?
That's a great question.
Thanks. I tend to ask them sometimes.
I appreciate that. I think it really just comes down to listening and trying to understand where they're coming from. I meet with so many people from so many different backgrounds, levels of education and financial understanding, depending on the household you were raised in, the level of education you've had an opportunity to achieve, the amount of career experience that you've taken on. There's so many different backgrounds that lend to your level of understanding when it comes to household finances and beyond even just the day-to-day household cash flow. Nobody likes to use the word budget, so I say cash flow.
I certainly do not like budget.
Nobody does. But even beyond that, understanding, creating a long-term financial plan and setting yourself up for success and your family years down the road, I really think that the most important thing for me is to understand where they are coming from. I tell people all the time, I want to know the important relationships in their lives, and I want to know the passions that they have in life, because I truly believe that when it comes down to it, our money is going to flow where our heart belongs. So whether it is a person that means something important to us and we want to be able to nurture and support a child, a family member, an aging parent, or it's a passion in a business or a hobby, that's where a lot of your financial focus is going to wind up. Whether it's, you don't have the ability in the near term because you're trying to support your family, maybe later on down the road, you want to make sure that's an important priority for you that you want to be able to focus on. Those are the things that are most important to me because it's important to them. And I feel like I'm able to add a lot more value and guidance when I understand that aspect.
So you use your active listening skills. You listen to people's challenges, maybe aches and pains, and then you truly provide a solution to their pain points, right? So your solution sales dives right into what Mike always
there you
talks
go.
about.
Yes, that's exactly what I do.
So
to boil it down in its simplest form.
That's a great segue, Brendan. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. But let's go to that, right? I mean, okay, so now all of a sudden you're Kona Financial Planning, and I'm sure you had some relationships already built that you were able to reestablish as Kona.
Yes.
But now all of a sudden you got to build a book of business, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
So how did you do that? I mean, actually, how did you do it? And did you realize that this was going to be like a tough thing for you?
Oh yeah, I did. I think I'm sure I've shared it with you and many who know me. Sales is not a natural thing for me. While I say we're all in sales, it's not a natural tendency for me. I like to focus on education and supporting and almost cheerleading a little bit. But I knew early on that it's building a client base and expanding brand recognition and, the whole nine that you have to go through as a business owner, you learn. I was very lucky and fortunate that I knew that I had at least a handful of clients that would likely stay with me. As I mentioned, they've been with me through the transition of a few different firms prior. I remember someone telling me, another advisor years ago, telling me, most of your clients don't know where, the name of the larger company that you work for. They know you. They know their relationship with you, and you're the one that makes them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think over the years, I found that to be true. The relationship is a personal relationship, and we get to know each other very well. I was very surprised when I made this transition, and, one of the first conversations I had with someone who had been a client of mine for a while, they said, well, it's about time. How long was it? I didn't know it was going to take you this long to go out on your own. So, it was almost kind of that additional support that was just a little bit more of a reinforcement, very encouraging for me taking that leap and taking that risk.
Yeah, you had a great kind of back support and all of that, but you had that in place. You knew that you had that in place, and the thing that I love, and the reason I love your story is because really it all boils down to relationships, right?
Yes.
And it's really kind of apropos to what we talk about here all the time, and everything has to do with relationships. Yeah. When you can build those, and when you can, have an effect on people and really get to know and build, then they buy.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. All the questions have been asked. Mm-hmm. So if there's one additional piece of information, one thing that you could say to people, what would that be?
It would probably be twofold. First, I've told many people, understanding your cash flow is so incredibly important. Knowing where your money goes, where it comes from. I don't care how much money or how little money you make. It's all about having an awareness of where it goes and feeling comfortable managing it. And the second thing would really be, once you have that awareness, don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions. There are probably 3 other people within your tiny little circle that want to know the answers to the same questions as you, but somebody's got to be brave enough to stand up and ask that question first. The best thing you can do is to take on some of that personal responsibility, knowing that you've worked very hard to earn the money that you earn and that you want to know how to make your money work for you. There is nothing wrong with that. Be proud to ask those questions, feel comfortable doing it, and get yourself to a point where you know you have someone you can rely on and feel comfortable with to going to for advice and guidance on that.
The sooner the better, right?
Yes, always the sooner the better.
Okay, so where can we? So if somebody, one of our listeners, wants to reach out to you, where can we find you? Where can they get a hold of you? Give us that.
You can always go to my website. It's konafinancialplanning.com, or you can go to konafp.com. There's an area where it says contact me. You can reach out, send an email. You can schedule time directly in my calendar through Calendly. But if you have questions, I'm always happy to answer. I tell everybody, whether you're a client or not, financial education is very important to me. I'm very passionate about it. So I'm always happy to, answer questions and provide a little clarity wherever I'm able to help.
Links will be below.
Okay, links will be below. Erin, thank you for your time today. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me.
Love to have you.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks everybody. Again, hit us up. Like, subscribe, follow all the socials.
Catch our shorts on TikTok. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Like and share this video. We'd appreciate all the love and support.
Comments. If you have any comments, if you have any criticisms, whatever, throw them in a comment section. We read that. Brendan and I look at that stuff all the time. So.
Yeah. And we'll have a guest form in our link tree. If you think you'd like to join in and come on into the show and be a guest, fill out that form, send it in, and we'll
drive to mommy.
Drive to mommy. Come have a cigar.
Investment advisory services are offered through Mariner Platform Solutions, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Kona Financial Planning and Mariner Platform Solutions are not affiliated entities. The views and opinions expressed in the podcast are for informational and educational purposes only. Nothing should be construed as personalized advice or recommendation of any kind. All expressions of opinion are subject to change without notice, and there is no guarantee that any claims made will come to pass. Kona Financial Planning and Mariner Platform Solutions does not guarantee the accuracy of the information provided. There is no assurance that any investment plan or strategy will be successful. Investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. All investment advisors have a fiduciary duty to act in their client's best interest, and registration of an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training.